Hi, my name is Dan Calacci, and I'm a PhD student at the Media Lab at MIT. Today, I want to talk to you about some work we've been doing over the past couple of years looking at the spread of Amazon Ring's surveillance network and how people use the social media platform Ring Neighbors, and how it relates to ideas of racialized gatekeeping and how demographics influence people's rate of posting throughout the country and in Los Angeles specifically. So you'll be interested in this talk if you study platforms, if you're interested in how platform design interacts with civic design and civic life, or if you're interested in how technology is influencing and developing along with policing. This work was done in collaboration with Shen, who is a super talented undergraduate here at MIT, and Sandy Pentland, my advisor. So to start, I'd really like to step everyone through what Ring really is. Many of you might be familiar with their cameras, like this one. A doorbell camera. It allows you to answer your doorbell while you're away from home. And this might seem innocuous at first, but what I've learned from studying the platform is that the real product that Ring makes isn't really just this camera at all. And their main differentiator as a company is that all of these cameras are networked together under Amazon's infrastructure. And it's this infrastructure that differentiates them. They have partnerships with thousands of law enforcement agencies around the country where law enforcement are able to request videos from users, and they even have their own platform where they can see the location of cameras in different communities. There's countless journalists and advocacy groups that have raised concerns about this process where Ring coaches police on how to use the platform and how it turns citizens into internalizing or participating in the responsibility of policing their own neighborhoods. And that can be dangerous for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the lack of accountability of individuals criminalizing behaviors instead of police or the legal system. And this happened through a social networking app that is produced by Ring. People post videos that are recorded from their cameras along with text. They also post text posts, community notifications, law enforcement agencies post on the platform. And this is what we're studying here. We scraped all of the posts from the platform from around 2020 back to 2016 when it first launched. And these posts also included the location of cameras across the country. And to give you a sense of the scope of this, here's a street that I used to walk down every day. And at one point while doing this project, I just counted this longest strip of road where I couldn't see a camera. And it was only about 1/10 of a mile. It's not isolated to my neighborhood. This is basically how this is operating throughout Boston and cities across the United States. Houston, New York, Seattle, Miami, Detroit. This is happening everywhere. Each of these dots is a camera. And so the spread of Ring as a phenomenon, I think, is an important thing to study. And the specific questions here that we're looking at are really about how people are using the platform, what kinds of communities are using it. And the way that we do this is we scrape the Ring Neighbors app and collect the location of cameras. And then we use spatial regression modeling to test hypotheses related to demographics and posting rates. And then we use an experimental survey to test how much users frame the content they post as more suspicious or criminal than by just watching the video alone. So to start here, we look at the county level nationally and look at posting rates. And our regression results, basically a bird's eye view of them, basically told us that we need to look more narrowly. Vehicle theft is a big factor in posting rates. There's a lot of posts about sort of vehicle-related anxiety. But one of the most interesting things here is that the non-Hispanic white share of a county has a large impact on the rate of posting in a county. And this is a 31% increase over the next highest racial variable in our analysis. But one of the biggest things that showed us is that it'll be important to look really specifically at a case study and at a smaller geographic scale. So what we did is we chose Los Angeles as a case study. We did this partially because one of the authors is really familiar with LA, but also because it's one of the most dense areas where Ring is used in the United States broadly. And we did a really similar analysis at the tract level, looking at demography, crime reporting, and socioeconomic indicators. And importantly, we wanted to test a specific hypothesis that people have had about Ring, which is that it's used to racially gatekeep neighborhoods. And racial gatekeeping here means that white neighborhoods will other or criminalize or cast as suspicious people of different races as a way to gatekeep the racial majority of a particular tract's neighborhood community. And the way that we tested this was we created a covariate in our analysis that reflected whether or not a neighborhood of tract was majority white with all white neighborhoods around it, or with some percentage of non-white neighbors. And we used that as one of our additional variables in our spatial regression. What we found was that this majority white with all white neighbors, what we call white enclaves, were the neighborhoods that posted by far the most on the platform. It had the largest impact by far. This group posted most about community alerts. They use it as a community safety platform. And white areas that have a higher percentage of non-white neighbors post more than any other group about strangers. And we take this to indicate that there is some racial gatekeeping happening on the platform, but it's not really solid evidence that people are actively framing their content as criminal or suspicious. So we took the most representative posts from a topic modeling analysis and had people code them and rate them as suspicious, not suspicious, criminal, not criminal, using Likert scales. And we did this under two conditions. The first was a control condition with just the video, and the other was our intervention, where it showed the video and the text associated with the post. And what we were looking for here was whether or not having the text impacted people's perceptions of the video. The answer was overall that the added text significantly impacted people's perceptions. So that text did this extra work of criminalizing or making suspicious the subjects in videos. This is important because it means that when people are posting, the actual video content itself might show something innocuous, like someone walking up to a gate or knocking on a door, but it's this additional context and additional framing that people use on the platform that actually casts it as suspicious and criminal. This study, I think, has a few major contributions. So the first is that this is the first big study of Amazon Ring as a network and as a platform, and of really any participatory surveillance platform. In the paper, we do some theorizing about what participatory mass surveillance really means. It's definitely the first major map of Ring spread across the United States. And we find a few significant things about how Ring is used, specifically about how Ring is used by whiter neighborhoods, both nationally and within Los Angeles. We find that users actively frame otherwise innocuous content as suspicious and criminal through the platform. And we show some evidence that Ring is used as this kind of racialized gatekeeping tool. All of these things are important in understanding how online safety platforms and social networks impact community behavior and relations. When we're designing online platforms, we need to do better work to understand how their design actually impacts people's perception of others in their community, and to an extent here, impact people's actual safety and relationship with police, with the state, and with others around them in their neighborhood. Thanks.